Hello and welcome to the Wixoss Diva Live Episode 2 review. I'm Callan.
And I'm Honey Panda Bunny. Overall, I actually almost enjoyed this episode. We got to see more of the protagonists, which I really liked, and the way that they present themselves, as well as how everyone plays Wixoss a little bit differently this time. And plus, when you look past the old series and actually just focus on this one, see it as in a different universe almost, you can actually come to enjoy parts of it, I found.
So I found this episode definitely had some positives and a few negatives. It felt like it took some steps forward and then a couple of steps back, because overall I found that the living side slice of life stuff to actually do a really decent job of fleshing out the main characters, and it gave us some more time to see them intermingle and establish their friend group. Meanwhile though, I did find that everything in the Wixoss land to be very bare bones in terms of development. The battles continue to feel a little bit confusing, and apart from an okay spectacle, story-wise it felt a little bit bland. A positive that I did find though was I felt that the animation in this episode was a lot improved from the previous one. I felt it was a lot more smoother, especially in the battle.
I do feel like it did pick up a lot. A lot of the time I was going, oh, that actually looks really good, and almost like that bounce with the battle later on was really, really good.
When we get into the battle, I will compliment some of the attack animations. They should look really cool and creative. The episode is primarily a Rei episode, I would say, and her relationship with the other two. Rei doesn't want people to know that she's a diva, but I did find it a little bit strange that she still uses the same name as a Larig, and she's also infamous as Absolute Rei for being a cold-hearted person that seemingly discards her partners when they don't want to win enough. She dislikes this moniker, obviously, because she feels that if you are fighting, then you should be fighting to win. Interestingly enough, she does mention a dream in this episode, something that she can only accomplish through the diva battles, but she doesn't elaborate here, so there's a bit of intrigue going forward.
I am starting to warm to Rei the most if I were to pick one at the moment, but that's because she has had the most character so far. I also actually like the theme of picking the name, which was a really good way to start because it helps to obviously then have them interacting, and it's able to show multiple characters doing their own thing, as well as Rei's experience with other groups. It's even also the fact that she's never really incorporated herself within these groups despite being in them, and that comes with she's never picked a name for her groups,
yes.
Which was really interesting, which shows that maybe she isn't the cold-hearted one, but maybe it's when you all have that idea to win but don't cooperate. That can be the problem within the group, not necessarily just Rei, and people want something to blame.
Well, that's something that Hirana mentions, is that when they're having their meal together, is the Rei that I've seen here is incredibly passionate, and she's not the cold-hearted person that I thought that everyone thinks of her as. As you said, this episode is them primarily thinking up the name for their team. Similar to you, I thought Rei came off really good in this episode. Like, I like the scene where she's in her room and she's blushing over the idea that, oh, I'm actually considering a name with this team. She's a lot more closer with this team at the start.
It's also interesting when you view it as a bunch of these girls coming to Hirana and telling her, oh, you should never be with her, you shouldn't be with her, she doesn't care about anyone but herself, like when they're eating at school, and Rei kind of catching that and hearing it. So it even shows that maybe we're not seeing everything to do with Rei as much as they're implying.
I did like that Rei used this as an opportunity to get to know the other two members of the team, and I really did like the cute little scene where they're watching Hirana play football and Akino offers her cookies and she takes one and then she keeps taking them. I thought that was a really nice cute scene showing that Rei is lowering her guard to these two. Interesting enough, in that scene as you see Hirana, in the school it seems that she volunteers for a lot of clubs, and we see that she's volunteered for the football team, and I never saw her as the sporty type, so this was a little added dimension I found to her character as well. And Akino, it's here in this scene that she references that Hirana hates losing, which plays obviously into the previous episode where she saw that she was quite affected by losing with her previous team. And I like to think that when Rei hears that, she realises that the two are quite similar. They're kindred spirits in a way.
I also like that Rei was quite open and honest to Akino, where she goes, I wanted to pick a name for all of us, but I know nothing about you two. And it opens up that dialogue with all of them to be able to explore this relationship together. And like you said, I also thought it was really interesting that Hirana doesn't like to lose. It's a character trait that I wasn't expecting, and I'm actually really excited because I feel like it has a lot of growth potential there that we can go towards. And also it was nice to just be able to continue on the main characters, I feel like, in this episode. We didn't get to see much of them in the first one because we were being introduced to them all, but here we actually got to see a little bit of growth for all of them, even if I do feel like Akino didn't get that much growth here, sadly.
So before we get into the battle, which takes up quite a large meat of the episode, I want to talk about the opposing team, which is called Universe's Beginning, which contains Tamago, the one with the blue outfit. We have Nova, who's almost the rocker, and then we've got Bang, who is the AI. We know that they're university students because we do see them in the room, and I think it's Akino that mentions that Tamago skipped some grades and she went straight to college. When they were talking about Rei, because Tamago's got previous history with Rei, you see it on the screen and their name's already No Limit, which I don't know if that's just an honest mistake or anime production really doesn't care about this. Whichever it is, I did find that they were very bare in terms of character development, because we see Tamago and Nova are university students and Bang's an AI that I'm assuming is created by them. They like snacks, and Tamago wants revenge for Rei for rejecting her, or she wants to prove that Rei is not who she thinks she is. I did like Nova's design. I thought she was really cool, but in terms of personality, I felt they were very bare bones.
I did have a problem with this group, to be honest. I don't really think they were showcased very much, but the idea of using data is really interesting in my opinion. It's exciting to see where this team is going to go. I also liked the way that the main girl of the group is animated, and this is getting into the fight here. I really enjoy how she moves. She also looks really cute when she's moving. It's kind of like a bouncy, she rolls up in a ball. It looks really fun.
Despite my grievances with Universe's Beginning's characterization, I did think that there was some creative use of their animation, especially, as you said, in the movement for Tamago, where she turns into a ball and she's very bouncy, and when she's playing the musical instruments. But the other two as well are really cool, with Nova playing the guitar and her shooting off, and then you have Bang and she has like her keyboard, but it's like an axe, and there's some really cool animations there. However, I will say that I did find the battle to be a little bit disappointing, just because it takes up nearly half the episode. I find these battles very difficult to follow, because Universe Beginning are seemingly winning for 95% of the battle. You don't even see the other team, Hirana's team, get any shots in until suddenly right at the end when they turn it around and they start winning. There's no back and forth. The whole SP thing, which was a big deal in the first episode, feels more of an afterthought here. And despite taking up much of the episode, it feels like not a lot actually happened in the battle.
Something I also did like about the other group is that there is actually obviously the Lyrig that is a complete AI. It's so interesting to think that you could create something to be in this game that doesn't actually have an existence. When she pops into the Lyrig world, she's also still the same as what she was before. But also, if we do go for like a kind of darker element here, what would happen if the AI had a dream and that's what could get granted by the end of this? What would be her dream? And also, if something bad did happen, what would happen to her, kind of thing. In the battle, like you said, it was a little bit awkward. We got the protagonist powers again. But while you were having trouble following the fight, I also did too, because it never felt like turns ever ended. It just felt like they continued.
Yes.
But it did seem more fair by the end, I suppose, because they both had 2 life cloth left each.
So an example I want to use is in the previous series in Selector Infected Wixoss, which also didn't tell you the rules as to how to play, but I felt that the battles there were served as the emotional crux of where the characters are in their head. For example, in the first episode when it's Ruko versus Yuzuki, we see that Ruko is a beginner, she's still learning, Yuzuki is taking advantage of this, but then you see over the turns that Ruko is starting to get more and more into it, and Yuzuki is actually shocked by how surprisingly she is for a newbie.
Yeah, it is something really interesting that the old series did, and I sadly do not think that we're going to get that form of play here. But at least the girls on No Limit did actually have a reason to be able to continue their shots, because they played a card that was able to continue the turn or make the others not be able to attack. I can't quite remember, but there you go, they actually had an opportunity to be able to fight and get that field going.
So essentially the battle boiled down to the old story trope of calculated opportune play. Tamago is obsessed with data, the perfect play, while Hirana's heart of never giving up in the face of percentage.
And luck.
In the case of this episode, they were going to lose, but because Hirana accidentally left some cards in her deck that she got from a booster earlier in the episode, they managed to save themselves, and then using the other cards that were added, they were able to finish off Universe's Beginning.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see that the SP was just non-existent here, and there was no rise to the crowd. In the first episode, we got them interacting with the crowd, obviously, but that seemed like all but gone here. And I do feel like with this anime so far, it could change, is that it comes off very enemy of the weak. We've had our first group, they've gone, we've had our next group, this group now, and it all seems that they're going through them pretty quickly.
One positive that I will give for the battle though is I did like Tamago playing on Rei's feelings, because obviously Tamago had approached Rei previously and had wanted her to join her team, but she rejected her, and then obviously Rei is known as Absolute Rei for rejecting teammates when they don't want to win hard enough. So I did find that aspect very interesting, where she was trying to make her doubt herself. I do like that we have some stuff building in the background as well, because Rei of course obviously wants to remain with the team for now, but who knows what will happen later on in the series, and we know that Hirana is very competitive and she doesn't like to lose. So I actually really think that when this team does lose their first match, I think this will open up to a lot of potential character development.
It is really exciting to see, because they do seem to bounce off each other well so far, but maybe there could be cracks in the future for it, and I'm only hoping that they will actually get a loss, because I do actually want to see, I know it sounds horrible, but I do want to see them lose, because I feel like they've gotten very lucky in the past 2 matches.
So there's a team in the opening that I've seen with blue hair, and I think they are on a poster as well, and I do think that those are going to be like the final boss. And I could see that them being the ones to give them their first loss, and then potentially facing them in a rematch further down the line.
Yeah, I did. Overall for this episode though, I did feel like I actually enjoyed it, and I am actually kind of looking forward to the next one to see what's going to happen next and see what group we get to see too.
And despite the little feeble earlier with the No Limit already seemingly being their name, at the end, because throughout the episode Hirana has this motif of there is no limits. Whatever I do, there is nothing can stop me from pushing to my full potential. With Rei and Akino are like, oh, we've got the perfect idea for a name. At the end of the episode, they're still referred to as No Name, but then we see the page turn at the end and they finally have their name, No Limit. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much.
Until next time.
Bye bye.